such an asshole!
Greetings and salutations. The old captain is catching up on asshole consulting the day after Christmas. A young man writes, "Hi Aaron, I'm looking to have a video request. Please just introduce me as William from New Zealand. Some background. I have a friend in Auckland who recently, 2 to 3 months ago, put a substantial amount of money into several servers and top-end video cards to use as a Bitcoin mining rig. Video cards are used in a mining rig as extra high-power CPUs for the mining calculations. You can get 4 to 8 into a case fairly easy. It's much cheaper than buying 5 to 9 separate servers. I've been reading your thoughts on the Cappy Capitalism blog regarding Bitcoin, and I've just watched your video request, Is Cryptocurrencies in a Bubble? I'm interested in your thoughts as a former banker and economist about the fund. Look at me. Yeah, look at you. You're like my New Zealand counterpart. Do those who talk about cryptocurrencies act like a cult or religion? They came across as technology evangelists with the mindset that they can fit X, which is everything that's wrong with the world. Oh, fix X, which is everything that's wrong with the world, when the world is a whole lot more complicated than that one thing they're trying to fix. Does this show a fundamental blindness?" Yes, you're right on all occasions. When I was looking into cryptocurrencies in general, we'll differentiate between like the top 3 and then the God Almighty. It's probably up to 1,200 different cryptocurrencies now. When you start going into the discussion boards and research and why does this have value, you ask questions, why does a cryptocurrency have value? You'll get some economists, you get some other people like really taking a serious crack at it, but then that's a great term you use there, technology evangelists. These people are pulling their pud to the novelty or to this new, slightly different or slightly more advanced or slightly tweaked, different take on a cryptocurrency. Ooh, we're backing, I remember one cryptocurrency being backed up by blog posts, as if that somehow gives it intrinsic value. It's like these nerds. If you ever tune in to Cynical Libertarian Society, he put his finger on it, and I've kind of alluded to it before. But like, you have a great phone, or you have a great computer, you got a great operating system or program, and these nerds, to either impress their boss or see a pussy, will come up with a whole new thing that you never asked for, some kind of bell or whistle that you didn't ask for fucking Yahoo Mail or you didn't ask for. They're like, hey, we did this, hey, we did that. It's just like, no, it was fine the way it was. And in part it's because these technology nerds want to impress their boss and impress girls and maybe see a vagina one time in their life. But I also think there's a mentality of, I don't even want to say one-upmanship, but they want to push their field, they want to push their expertise to the maximum level possible, whether that new invention or that new creations that come from pushing that field, that envelope further, has any practicality or use in the real world. And that is definitely what I saw, where they are masturbating intellectually to innovations and developments in cryptocurrencies, some of which are not all that grand. Hey, we're going to back it up with blog posts. Oh, we got double blockchain encryption technology. I'm like, okay, whatever. Now it goes beyond the realm of economics, practicality, intrinsic value, use and practicality, and applicability to the real world, and now it's just in theory land. And I think there's a disconnect. There's a decoupling where these obviously high-end computer-level geniuses, technology, or maybe not. Some of them are just fanboys. Like, they don't understand the technology. They probably don't code or program themselves. But they're just like, that's their thing. They get off on it. You know, like guys watching sports and they get pissed off and throw punches and cry when their team doesn't win. This is kind of the nerd version of that, where you have the nerds that can actually do it. But then for every nerd that can actually do it, there's like 100 or 10 or maybe even 1,000 who can't, but just that's what they're excited about. So for every actual genuine athlete out there who puts the time in, works out, has the strength and the speed to throw a sphere into a hoop or catch a funny looking ball thrown by another guy, for every one of them, actually for every one professional athlete, there's 19,000 not, if you're looking to become a professional athlete. But there's definitely hundreds, if not thousands, of guys who like cry and get upset and angry or cheer when that guy throws the ball over that pointy thing through the hoop. Or did he kicked it and it slid, it skewed, and then they didn't get the points. And then, whoa, you know what happens then? Nothing. Absolutely nothing happens after. So yes, there is this psychological cult-like aspect of religious, irrational religious-like aspect to cryptocurrencies that I saw, and it does show a fundamental blindness. They are never able to reconnect it back to, hey, this cryptocurrencies are never going to go away unless you make it fucking practical, has intrinsic value, and useful and easy to use. So that is the vast majority of those cryptocurrencies. And the sheer number of cryptocurrencies, I mean, I don't know what we're up to now. Like I said, we're probably about 1,200. That alone indicates this is more of a hobbyist, cult, borderline religion, or religious type of entity we're dealing with. Now, when it comes to blockchain technology in general, and some of the early adapters, the Ethereums, the Litecoins, and the Bitcoins, I think there's one of them is going to push out, a couple maybe, are going to actually, I think, stick with us. And it may not even be Bitcoin or Ethereum. It may not even be the top three. Something new could come along that actually has a genuine technological advantage and edge over the others. But I think this is still going to be a first mover market. So I think the ones that are a top three are statistically likely to be the ones that are. But you never know. You never know. I mean, what was it? Who was... I'm trying to think in the olden days, like who was the first auto company, and did that one make it, or did they get bought out, or did they go bankrupt? There's plenty of instances throughout history where the first mover is not necessarily the one that survives. Someone that comes along does it a little bit better. Yeah, so there's a fundamental gold rush fever. I watched a somewhat older documentary where a person interviewed said about a friend, quote, he's losing money mining for bitcoins. I ask him why he does it. He says, I can't stop. I've got this equipment here. I can't stop. It sounds like an obsession or gold rush mentality is forming amongst the IT crowd. Yes and no. The mining is very similar to drilling for oil. Everyone was rushing out to the Bakken oil field when oil was, $80, $100 a barrel? Because it was profitable. And your buddy has the sunk costs, although he does have to pay a lot for electricity. Shoot, some people are moving to, like, New Zealand or wherever they can get the cheapest electricity. It's crazy. But now with Bitcoins going up in value, the break even is a lot lower. Now it makes sense. Although I don't know what Bitcoin is trading at now. Let's take a look. It doesn't matter. It's minute to minute. I'm selling at 50,000. That's what I'm getting out. People are saying, you got like, yeah, no, I'm holding on to it. I like the idea. I know it's a lottery ticket. I'm not delusional. Bitcoin. Where are we at? No, it's back up to 16,000. It could be a dead cat bounce. You don't know. Anyway, at 16,000, I mean, what was it? We go back 6 months ago. It wasn't 16,000. Now all of a sudden it's 16,000. Now you get one Bitcoin. You mine one. That can cover a lot of fixed capital expense, not to mention your energy expense, your electrical bill. So I'm not against it when the price goes up. Yeah, then you do it. But this guy seems addicted, and I believe a lot of people who are mining for Bitcoins are also hobbyists, cultists. They're addicted to it. Like, I got all this equipment. And they don't understand the concept of sunk costs, not to mention the electrical bill they're going to have. But now that Bitcoin is a lot higher, just like oil, now it pays to go mine for it. But yeah, there is a gold rush mentality. But at least it may be more like the people that's... The gold rush mentality is not the people that actually go and mine. It's the people that sell the gold panning equipment. So in this case, it would be the computers and your graphics card. I'd say Coinbase and other exchanges out there that have like a little transaction fee. They're obvious. The ones who enable the miners to go and do it, they're the ones that are going to make the money. But the problem was it's not exactly like this is California 1849. Yeah, graphic cards have always existed. There's not a ton of people flooding the market to go buy Bitcoin mining operations. You're just buying more computers, which are pretty much a commoditized asset anyway. You're not doing pickaxes and gold pans and stuff like that. So there's an element of it this anecdote right here that you talk about where he's like, oh, I got this equipment, I can't stop. That's a psychological issue. The sunk cost things. You're aware of that being a banker and an economist. But I think a lot of them, well, I can't say a lot of them. A lot of them will be caught up in that IT nerd. Oh, you got to do this. Look, it's a hobby. They may not make money. But I think some of them are probably a little bit smarter, especially those who move to like low-cost energy, and they've probably ran some forecasts and projections. But like any, some gold miners made it, some didn't. So the same thing going to be with Bitcoin miners. The shift in mining to other countries. Okay, here we go. Currently, it's economic to do mining in China, where the power, labor, and equipment is generally cheap, and nobody gives a damn about the pollution and environmental costs. In addition to wondering how people like my friend are able to compete, the miners also do this transaction processing. If all the transaction processing shifts to China or some other second world hellhole, is that a potential concern for a money supply if or when someone outside the country decides to shut everything down for a while? I'm thinking some kind of economic warfare. Hang on, let me try. Like, if China shuts down the electricity, is that a potential concern for a money supply? Down for one. Oh, I see what you're saying. So, like, if we decided to wage economic warfare on China, we somehow cut off their electricity. Shut down everything. I don't think that's really going to have an effect on the cryptocurrency. Right now it's volatility. That's what's driving cryptocurrency. Volatility, foreigners trying to get their money out of corrupt kleptocracies and corrupt communist nations. And then more recently, stupid American money going in, where I read an article about people borrowing money against their house to buy cryptocurrencies. And when waiters and waitresses are buying cryptocurrency, yeah, you're like, okay. I was kicking around like selling it around like 18,000. I'm like, no, we had a plan. We're just going to hold out. Just gonna hold. This is gambling money, and I'm like, I could have got that a little bit. But right now, I don't think waging war, some kind of economic warfare that would interrupt the power supply or the ability for people to mine in second and third world shitholes, is we're going to have that much of an effect on the price of Bitcoin. Because right now, I don't know how many are mined out right now. But this is not like the U.S. printing press. We just could print off. We could just triple our money supply in 8 years like we did under Obama, and nothing will happen. It's a more static money supply. It's not like thousands of Bitcoins are hitting the market every day. It's starting to slow down, and it gets progressively more difficult to mine. Like, mining that last Bitcoin is going to take a long fucking time. So there's this slow, gradual release of money, or Bitcoin, into the global market. And if it pauses or stagnates for a little bit, because that release is so slow, I don't think that's going to have much of an effect on the price of Bitcoin. If anything, it might go up like, oh my God, we can't mine for any more. Price goes up. But given the other variables and effects globally that are driving Bitcoin, and they're all like this, if Bitcoin is just stopped being mined because China shut it down, I don't think, we didn't get our Bitcoin this week, or we didn't get our Bitcoin this month. I would not be too worried about it. And then people just shift production to a different place. But I'm not that. I don't see like economic warfare really having an effect on the supply of Bitcoin, because it's just such a slow release of supply. Fractional reserve banking. With an absolutely fixed number of Bitcoins or other cryptocurrency units of exchange, the Federal Reserve and other banks will no longer be capable of indulging in such shenanigans as printing off more money and then loaning out 100 plus X what they have currently in cash deposits. My tentative thought is that this is a good idea, barring potential deflations. What I don't see is the banks being willing to release their death grip on the currency and allowing a substitute to gain wide acceptance. I don't see it either, but man, a lot of these actions by first world entities, Japan, the United States, Chicago Mercantile Exchange, our institutions are allowing for Bitcoin. The ones that aren't allowing for Bitcoin, or would like to stop it, but they can't because it's crypto, are your communist, dictatorial utopias, socialist utopias like Venezuela and China and Vietnam. India, to a lesser extent, because they're putting transactions in or restrictions on gold and capital costs like their capital flight like that. But the action so far taken by most free first world nations has been rather accepting of Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies in general. So I know exactly what you're going through here. Yeah, if all of a sudden, and right now, I don't think they're too worried about it because cryptocurrencies aren't accounting for that many transactions. If you look at the accepted here index that I calculated, I think Bitcoin is only accepted at like 20,000. Let's take a look here. And this was written 6 months ago, so maybe on the camera. Here, cryptocurrency. That's a hard word to type. Oh, they were already at 1,200 back then. All right, so Bitcoin has, okay, it's much more than that. Bitcoin, when we search, we accept Bitcoin, there's 176,000 hits. Litecoin, 48,000, then Ethereum is down to 2,050, and then it just goes to nothing. That's still nothing. That doesn't account for 1/1,000,000% of GDP. Like I said, most cryptocurrency being used today are being used to get wealth out of kleptocracies and dictatorships. That's really what it's. In other words, it's outside the United States and the first world, or relatively uncorrupt world. So it's not going to be. If also McDonald's starts accepting Bitcoin, or Walmart accepts Bitcoin, or Amazon accepts Bitcoin, then you actually have this mature currency that can compete against the traditional ones, the euro, the yen, yuan, dollar, pound, and stuff like that. But that's not happening as of yet. It may not happen for a while. The potential is there, but I think the central banks, I don't think they view it as a threat because it's just not being universally accepted. It's a cute thing. To them, they pat it on the head. But I think they woefully underestimate. Yeah, what was that economist saying? It should be illegal, and Morgan Stanley says the value of cryptocurrency is zero. That shows you the old farts with the gray hair who had us go through that last financial crisis. Look, everything's great in the housing market in 2006. Let's just lend more money. Those fools don't really understand the potential of blockchain technology. But right now, as it stands, since it's not universally accepted, like you and I just can't go buy gas with it, I don't think they're worried about it just yet. Down the road, though, yeah, would they? I think some central banks would. And it's speculation on my part. The indications right now, how they have accepted cryptocurrency, they're allowing institutions to trade. I think they view it more as a commodity, but not a serious threat to the US dollar or the yen or whatever else. Down the road, if it's universally accepted and cryptocurrency, be it Bitcoin or Ethereum, has like the stable exchange rate, many people are accepting universally, then the threat that cryptocurrency, one single global cryptocurrency, threatens all the central banks with their power. And it's not the central banks. Keep in mind, the central banks are the poodle lapdogs of governments. Oh yeah, they're independent. Yeah, suck my dick. When the governments realize that you can't just have the Federal Reserve or the central bank print off more money to buy the bonds, so we don't have to tax people, we might have to jack up taxes, and people might have to actually pay what they want in government services, that's when the politicians, that's when it gets to the politicians. Then the politicians, they'll learn real quick. They'll take a crash course in cryptocurrencies and find out what a real threat it is. But I don't see that happening, maybe even with yours in my lifetime. I really don't. It could happen, gosh, it might happen in second and third world shitholes, where that's where it gets a stability, that's where it becomes universally accepted. Kind of in a weird sense, like a lot of Africa never had to really put in phone wires because, they didn't develop the phone to work on, they didn't have the money to wire up their country. And now why would you? It's all cell towers because it's a fraction cheaper. You don't need to run lines. So you do this leapfrog technology jump. I think because your second and third world countries are so corrupt, this provides a way to get out of that. I think you might have the ground testing and the universal acceptability in second and third world countries, and then that, ironically, may provide some stability to the currency in terms of its price relation to other major currencies. But I don't think the Federal Reserve or the Bank of England or the Bank of Japan cracking down on cryptocurrency just yet. I think the people who are in charge of central banks now are not that smart. They're not that bright. They're pretty smart and they're pretty bright, but man, that last financial crisis and .com before that, I'm realizing, and not to mention, I realize how dumb baby boomers are. Like, they're just not that smart. And I don't think they have, I think they have the intelligence to understand cryptocurrency, but I think they're just too damn lazy. Or they got too much other shit going on. They're not going to bother to figure out what exactly is, what do you mean ledger? What do you mean a universal ledger that would just eliminate the entire banking system? I don't think they've given that much thought, and I think they're patting it on the head, and they don't realize what a truly revolutionary and upheaving potential this technology has. But we'll see it when it gets there, but that could be when you and I are old farts, like the two guys in The Muppet Show. Ponzi schemes, not just tulip fever and South Seas shares and Amway-style MLMs, actual scams where the early adopters make it big and leave the late adopters holding an empty bag and trying to find another mark to buy the stuff at more than they paid for it. Having gone through from a few pennies in 2008 to 2009 up to 10,000 plus per Bitcoin in 2017, this may be a pump and dump stage starting to happen. Yeah, people have been selling. That happens, but that's I don't know. That's not a Ponzi scheme. That's just traders. A Ponzi scheme is different. A Ponzi scheme is where you get a bunch of people to give you money and you promise them 10% rate of return. You take their money, and there was one recently in the Twin Cities. This isn't Tom Petters or Danny Hecker. This is more recently. This is after the crash. It was Big Island. Big Island is an island in Lake Minnetonka's Big Island, and this is the preppy, yuppie, dude bro world, Lake Minnetonka area. And these guys were really done Ponzi schemes. These guys are idiot. These were morons when it came to running a scam. They took the money, and normally who was the famous guy? Madoff. What he did is he at least tried to invest it, so they get a 10% rate of return. Well, he didn't get a 10% rate of return. He maybe lost 5%. Well, then when it came time to pay the original investors, what he would do is go get new investors, pay out the old investors with the new money, and then promise the exact same thing to all the other investors. And that's where you need constantly new investor money to pay off the old investors. You keep the charade up for a while, and if you don't get the rates of return on the market, you're inevitably doubling down and losing more and more and more, and then soon the charade is up. These guys didn't even make it one round. Because they borrowed money, or they didn't borrow, they got investors, and then the next day they bought like Maseratis and a house on Lake Minnetonka. It's like, no, you morons, you're supposed to try to invest that, okay? You're supposed to at least give it a shot. And then that's the Ponzi scheme. But this, Bitcoin is not a Ponzi scheme, because it would require new investors in some kind of fund, and this isn't a fund, this is a currency. You got the currency, everyone, okay, what's the market rate? It's this, here you go. Do you want to pay $20,000 for a Bitcoin? Well, there you go. I paid 20, or I paid cents. It's not a Ponzi scheme, and I don't think there's anything wrong with the early adopters making a big profit. That's the one benefit of being smarter than the average bear. That's the one benefit of having a vision, right? You get to make money on the sheep. We had to work hard and be nerds and fight bullies and all that. Now it's our time. Now we get to sell to the sheep. That's the one thing I've learned. If you're an independent thinker, the money to be made is taking advantage of the sheep. Not fraudulently. Not lying to them and doing a Ponzi scheme and stealing money from other people is essentially what you're doing with a Ponzi scheme. But I'm like, I think that's going to go places. I'm going to throw a little bit of money into that. Oh, would you like to buy? I bought a Super Bowl ticket for $300. Would you like to pay $4,500 for it? Here you go, you dumb fucking idiot. So that's different. And even then, Bitcoin, you could say, oh, what was it? Microsoft was launched in 1979, went up thousands of percent by 1989, 10 years later. And some idiots say, oh, yeah, I'm going to get that sucker to buy my Microsoft shares. Look, I made all that money. Well, what happened? Well, 1989 to today, Microsoft has gone up, another 1,000%? Doesn't mean that Bitcoin will go down. Again, mathematically speaking, there's 186,000 US dollars in circulation for every Bitcoin. If you want to be literally mathematical about it, that would technically be the exchange rate. But currencies don't operate that way. Bitcoin's so new. I'm just pointing out that they're in a very simple mathematical world. If you want to look at the exchange rate, I don't mean that on a currency trading market. I mean that in the global supply of dollars is, I forgot what it was, 3 trillion. I'm talking the monetary base, not even that funny money with the fractional reserve banking going on. Right now, for every Bitcoin, there is 186,000 printed US dollars. Right? That's on the low end. That's not its effective money supply. But I'm just thinking from a very linear and simple, admittedly simple aspect. There might be, people might look at today, yeah, I bought Bitcoin, it took a dip down to 15, then it shot up to 80. And then now all of a sudden down the road, some currency traders say, hey, yeah, that funny guy on the internet who woke up out of bed, never shaved, and then did his work, and he was right, it's 186,000. I don't know why I didn't think of that before. It won't be that simple. There's other international demand and reliability and trust issues. It's not that simple. But I'm just saying there's a potential that Bitcoin could go up, especially if it gets more and more universally accepted. But that I really do believe in that second, third world thing. I think Bitcoin is more of a product of the not first world. And the first world is like, oh my God, let's talk about it. Oh my God. So it's a fascinating topic. I really do enjoy looking at cryptocurrencies, but I don't sense any maliciousness or evil or criminal behavior going on. It's certainly not a Ponzi scheme. It's just somebody making a capital gain and somebody buying it. That person has every right to buy. Don't. I know you want to all be America, where we don't blame ourselves, we don't take responsibility for our actions. We just responsibility free. My goodness. People have you pay 20 grand for a Bitcoin or a fraction, you pay whatever, you're paying that price. Well, you're responsible if you lose money on it. That's how it is. It's gambling is what it is right now. So 5 overall things there, more than I originally expected. I'm looking forward to your response and thoughts. Cheers, William. Well, there's my thoughts and response. Hope that provides you a little bit more insight. But yeah, it's a very entertaining beast. I really enjoy watching it, and I really enjoy having conversations, talking to the plebes of society. I don't get Bitcoin, and I try and explain to it, what do you mean digital? I gotta see it. It's like, do you see the vast majority of your transactions right now? Like when you pay your mortgage, do you take $3,500 in cash to the bank? No. Well, it's digital, isn't it? Yeah, it's all electronic, right? Yeah. Well, instead of having all these computers in these banks and these buildings, why don't we just have a cryptocurrency with a couple servers out there and an international global ledger that keeps all track of it? Because that's all the finance industry is right now. And then they almost get it, and they're like, yeah, but I don't have the dollars. I'm like, oh, fuck it, never mind. Pay me. All right, that's it. We'll see you guys later. Toodles.